Hey everybody, welcome back one more time. It's Mama Kay coming at you from her studio in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And today I have one of the most fun people that I have met over my last year and a half being at Leila North. We always have great conversations, and I am so jealous of all the concerts that this person goes to. They are constantly introducing me to new music and telling me who I need to be listening to and what's coming up next for them. Yeah, so happy to have them as a part of my life now. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce them to you, but actually it's more fun if they introduce themselves. So who are you?
I am Darren Roy, and I'm in my 17th year at Leela. And I've been a grade 7 teacher, I've been a multi-age teacher, and I've also been noted to direct 17 productions in the school.
17.
17.
That's incredible. So this
Yeah.
this year's production would be number 17?
We are on number 17, and we have not yet canceled it. We are hopeful that we will perform in a new forum in some way, but we're hopeful.
It could be a virtual musical.
Yeah, we're kind of figuring out the waters as we go.
I want to talk about what the musical is a little bit
We're
for this
putting
year.
on the musical Aladdin, and it is a junior adaptation of the Broadway show, and it's from Music Theatre International, and they have graciously given us the rights to put it on, and we have a bold group of kids in the show, and they're just as keen to keep going as we are to keep running it.
One of the beautiful things about the productions that you guys put on is that everybody is welcome, right? There's
Yeah.
a spot for everybody to be a part of the musical. Can you give me just a rough estimate as to how many kids are involved this year?
This year, about 75. We've had as many as about 110. We've had as few as about 60 or 65. But beyond being on the stage, we love to double cast the production so that all the leads get multiple castings, that everyone gets their little chance to shine. We also have some backstage crew roles that I feel are significant for kids to be learning and sharing as well. Their tech skills, their projection abilities, their mic skills, their set design, their props, and all those fun little doodads behind the scenes that we completely encourage the kids to get involved with.
That's incredible. When do you guys start putting the pieces together?
We begin usually in the fall, and we talk with the kids that are interested in the show, and then we start auditioning, and we kind of run through there with rehearsals, and then we were practically at the point where we were working with almost everything. We were putting costumes in place, we were working with props, we were working with set pieces, but in the absence of not being at school, that's kind of taken a bit of a grinding halt, but not to be put fully on the back burner.
No, well, I can't wait to see how it all comes together. I know the students always love coming to watch it, especially now that the productions are at our very own Seven
Yeah,
Oaks Performing Arts Center, SOPAC.
yeah.
What a great venue.
It is. It is a great venue for everybody in the division, whether you are an instrumentalist, a choralist, or a performer. We have lots going on in the SOPAC that celebrates all the diversity.
So let's get into a little bit about you, Mr. Roy.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about what your journey was in band?
In band, well, when I was 13, my family moved to London, Ontario, which is nestled between Toronto and Windsor. It's a little bedroom community about halfway between each of those cities. And I went to the school, Sir Frederick Banting Secondary. And at that school, it was known to be a performing arts and athletes-based school experience for kids. So kids strong in their athletics, whether you were a track artist or whether you were a football athlete or a volleyball star or even a performer, there was lots of opportunities for that to happen. And it just so happened that the neighborhood we moved into was the catchment for the school that I got to go to. And from grade 9, I went for 5 years at the school. I was a student of the grade 13 OAC programming in Ontario. And every year I was there, I was in band. And I had very little experience in band before that. I'd taken piano lessons in my childhood and kind of worked my way through some Royal Conservatory stuff, managing to get my grade 1 or 2. I think I got my grade 2 and got a little bit of theory behind that. And I tried out for the band, which was more just like a, let's test your embouchure, let's kind of see what you're good at. And I got selected to play with trumpet at first. And then worked my way into other brass instruments and kind of fiddled with a variety of things. I love percussion, I love trumpet, I liked woodwind instruments, but they all brought a challenging embouchure that I needed to kind of decide. And by the end of grade 10, I kind of focused on brass, but was still dabbling a little bit with other instruments.
Did you ever play in a jazz band?
No, we did not have a jazz band. Our programming was very traditional concert band-ish. We didn't have the jazz experience that Manitoban students get. I don't know if that was preference or that was just a decision made by the school district at the time. But I had no experience with jazz. That was a new thing when I came to Manitoba, when I was teaching to experience.
Well, we have been very lucky that you have agreed to come and play with us at well, I guess the first one you played at was this past winter concert. It was great to have you sit in with the trumpet section, and I know that the kids are excited to have you join them again for our June concert.
Yeah, that's a really neat experience for me. And sometimes you back shelf things to put away for a little bit. You take it out to try a new thing to challenge yourself on. And I thought, hey, it'd be a good time to learn a little bit of music and be able to play with the kids alongside them. I
So
enjoyed it.
I'm curious, do you remember much about what your band teacher was like when you were?
Yeah, I had Gary McCumber, and Gary McCumber was a PhD holder. He held his PhD in music ed, and he was a very bold, very vivacious, very outgoing personality. He was an older gentleman when I started working with him, but he was very passionate. He was very strong in his concert band conducting skills. We had students as many as probably 80, 85 in a band to perform when we would do concerts. We had an auditorium in the building that really helped, but he really drove the importance of communicating with each other through the musical instrument, and that our music instruments also blended with the other instruments in a band. So he was really passionate. And my favorite memory of him would be when he'd get really angry at a section for either squeaking or squawking or dropping their instrument at the wrong time or playing at the wrong note. He would whip his conductor's baton at that section and just throw his hands up in the air out of pure frustration, turn around, take a breath. Someone would bring up his baton and he would start going again. But you could see the drive was in him that he wanted excellence in what we did. So didn't really take too kindly to disruptive behavior.
So other than learning how to throw a baton, what skills would you say that you learned by being in band that maybe you use in your everyday life or you're teaching now?
Yeah, well, volume and chromatics and dynamics, I think like learning how to increase the sound, learning how to decrease the sound, learning how to play quietly at the right time, learning how to play loud, learning how to communicate through a language that wasn't English or French or Spanish. And I think that that's what's really cool about music is that it's such a universal thing that it didn't matter who you were or what experience you had brought, that the ultimate goal was providing an enriching auditory experience for everyone.
So even just, I guess, being in a band, you learn how to get along with everybody too, right? You learn
Yeah.
when it's time for you to speak up and when it's time for you to listen, and that balance there, right?
Yeah, a lot of listening skills for sure. We had to do listening activities where every week he would sit us down. He would play a famous piece of music from Baroque or the Romantic or the classical periods and kind of get us listening to different aspects of it, whether it was the sounds that were being created or the moods that were being kind of uh, created in a vision that you could see mentally. He used a lot of senses teaching, so it got us to smell things that were done through music, got us to hear things, got us to see things, got us to feel things that you probably wouldn't learn in a traditional classroom, but became really important skills in areas that I work in today with teaching kids about science and learning how to make qualitative observations and learning how to use different tools to kind of express ideas.
I wonder if having him having you doing all that listening, I wonder if that impacted you at all with the amount of concerts you go to and how deeply you feel about music.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was very lucky too in the school that I went to, in addition to the theater and the band piece, I was involved in choral groups. And our choral teacher worked very well alongside Gary McCumber, and Sandy Mennel was her name. And again, a very veteran teacher in the building. She'd been there her entire career, but brought a passion of the importance of like hear what other people had done in their lives to create musical experiences for everybody, but being a critical observer of the auditory sounds that you hear. That was a really important thing that I take from that. Like you had to be critical of what you listen to, And a live show experience is all about that, whether it's a genre that's unique to what I enjoy or a genre I've never listened to. Just going in and taking in all of the instruments that are playing, all of the sounds that are being sung, kind of is influenced by my passion that I had as a kid learning how to play an instrument.
Now I have to ask you something that's a little bit more timely, and I didn't prep you with this one, so I apologize
No
if
worries.
it tugs at your heartstrings a little. Um, what concerts have been canceled that you are unable to go to due to what's happening in the world right now? And I'm so sorry I'm asking you this,
Yeah,
but I know
no,
you go
that's
to a lot.
okay. That it comes up a lot, and I had a few lined up. I did have the Glass Tiger. They were lined up to happen on the weekend of Brandon Jazz, and what they did, they postponed their show till December, which was kind of nice because that means that it's still a go. It's just at a later date. There are other concerts like Rage Against the Machine. I was really passionate to go and see. Zach De La Hoya is kind of one of my teenage idols, and he was always somebody I really liked seeing live. And they have not yet set a date, but they were ones that I was hoping to see. Basha Bullet is another one who's kind of on hold, and she, a different style of music, more soulful, rich Canadian crooner sort of singing that she would have played at a smaller venue, but that one got put on hold. And for good reason. I think these artists are knowing that they want an audience that can hear them out in their entirety and not be afraid to get out in public and potentially be exposed to something they don't want to be. So the decisions for organizations to be putting things away or postponing or canceling dates is respected. But we have so much music that goes through the city, even as things as wild and zany as the Much Music video dance party that would be an Electric Circus throwback. One of my idols as a kid was also Monica Diol, who was kind of like the crooner of the VJ circuit in Much Music. And they announced that they're going to postpone their show till September in order to make sure that they have an audience that kind of respects their music. So yeah, unfortunately, some of them have to get canceled or postponed.
So, Mr. Roy, if you had to recommend, say, now this is really tough, um, 5 artists
Ooh.
that kids could listen to during their time off, or even adults, people that you think are really someone to watch out for and to listen to and are on the
Yeah.
accessible end for sure. Because I know you and I both have some musical tastes that maybe are a little out there, but
Yeah, yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
Who would you recommend that people take a listen to?
I would recommend someone like Xavier Rudd, an Australian musician who speaks about Earth and kind of uses the Earth music to create sound. A Yiskwe is a female Indigenous artist, Yskwe, someone who really speaks positive messages of hope for Indigenous communities, but does it through a bit of a punk pop lens. You've got uh, Jack Johnson is a soul surfer, a rocker guy who I like listening to when it's kind of just calm and mellow. Um, uh, who else? I don't know. Tribe Called Red, another
Love
Canadian
them.
Indigenous group that comes from Ontario that promotes a bit of a groove vibe to their music. And who else?
Give me one more.
Oh, I don't know. There's so many, and I think even in the legends of someone like Hawksley Workman, another Canadian artist who kind of speaks about the experience of being Canadian. Whether he's older doesn't really impact the interest kids would have in his music, but there's so many musicians out there just worth exploring that they don't need to be your favorite genre, but they need to be somebody that you connect with.
It's a nice way if we can expose more kids to Canadian music during this time too, right? Because
Yeah.
you never know who they listen to. I know for me, I'm re-exploring and re-falling in love with the Rio Statics.
Yeah, Rio Statics is another one, very instrumentally infused, and they take another angle on the Canadian music scene that has kind of a '90s feel to it. But yeah, there's lots. Tegan and Sarah, another alt indie rock duo that really preaches a lot of positive messages for being optimistic and being true to yourself, and yeah.
That's fantastic. So before I let you go, do you have any extra little tidbits of Mr. Roy wisdom that you'd like to send out to our watchers at this point that maybe could give them an extra little bump through this tough time?
Everything's gonna be all right. One of my favorite artists was Bob Marley, and I think it still continues to be Bob Marley. But his message of knowing that in through times of despair, that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, there was sunshine at the end of the horizon, that everything would be okay in the end, is kind of the mantra that we have to remember. That we need to take time to breathe. We need to enjoy what we have at our disposal, and it's a different kind of routine that we're getting into, but I don't think it's impossible to also be mindful of your own kind of wealth and health, and it will be okay.
And listen to good music.
And listen to good music. Yeah.
Mr. Roy, thank you so much for taking time out of your day today. I really appreciate it.
I loved it. It gave me something different to do.
I hope to see you in person very soon.
Oh, we all hope to be back together. One day we will.
Have a great one.